Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and I'm here with another monthly reading wrap up and TBR. This time we're talking about the books that I read in January and the books that I'm hoping to read in February. I didn't end up doing a December wrap up, so let me know if you'd like me to go back and do one of those, but I ended up just including those books in my yearly wrap up, and so not going to include them in this one because I feel like I have enough to talk about, but we'll see. This month was a little bit of a weird one. I read 11 books and all but 2 of them came from 2 different series that I was reading. So I'm going to not go in order of how I read the books. I'm going to go in like chunks of the 2 series that I was reading a lot of books from. That way it just makes more sense and I can talk about them all kind of in one go. But with that, we'll just go ahead and dive right in. The first book that I read this year was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I then proceeded to read book 2, book 3, and book 4, all in the Harry Potter series. I'm just going to hold up the first one, but just know I'm going to be talking about all 4 books right now. I have a whole reading vlog with these that should already be up. I'm pretty sure it is. So if you want to see like full in-depth thoughts of my reading experience, this was my first time reading Harry Potter. I have seen all the movies before going into these, so I did do things probably a little out of order, but I think it's fine. I knew so many plot spoilers just from having grown up in an era where Harry Potter was so big that I didn't really feel like it mattered if I watched the movies or read the book first. So, and I stand by that. This was good. I gave all 4 books 4 stars. They're fine. The writing's not the best. I don't know that I feel very attached to any of the characters in this series. It's probably my biggest gripe, but they're fun. They're decently quick reads. As far as the ones that I enjoyed the most, I think book 2 might be one of my favorites so far. I have yet to finish the series. That will be coming up sometime in February. We'll talk about that in a bit. But overall, I had a really good time with these. I think everybody, like if you're interested at all, read them at some point. I don't know that I would read them back to back is my biggest thing. I feel like there were parts that got really repetitive. She recapped a lot in the books, and so if you were reading them spread out like as they released, it would be very helpful. But reading them back to back, it got a little obnoxious, which is why I decided to break it up and take a bit of time before I read the second half of the series, because I was just getting a little annoyed with the excessive recapping reading them back to back. So that was Harry Potter, the first 4 books. I had a good time. I guess I would recommend, like if you're interested, definitely more of a kid's book. I think as an adult, you catch a lot more plot issues. But if you were a kid, I could see how those would just like not be a problem for you. And then the other series that I was really working my way through this month is the Midorran Chronicles. I read books 3, 4, 4.5, 5, and 6 this month. So this really made up the bulk of my reading this month. Book number 3 was Dracora. I gave this one a 4.75 stars. I really enjoyed this one. We got some dragons in this one. It was a bit of like a time travel-y one. And I really liked where we went the plot. I thought it would set some very interesting things up for the rest of the series. I'm going to try really hard to talk about these without spoilers. Overall, the series is just so fun. I love the characters so much. I was so invested in this series. Highly, highly recommend it. This is everything that I want in a YA fantasy series without any of the annoying tropes that I feel like we've been getting lately. It's just, if anybody has any other series that feel like this series, please let me know, because this is exactly what I'm looking for when I read YA fantasy. And I've just been having a really hard time finding books like this lately. Book number 4 is called Greyvale. This one is where you start to get into a little bit of like the heavier stuff. Definitely towards the end of the 3rd book into the 4th book, things start to really ramp up as far as the action and the plot starts to get a lot crazier. Things are getting kind of intense. I gave that one 5 stars. Like, I just am obsessed with the series. And then 4.5, this is We Three Heroes. You're reading 3 novellas from the point of view of each of the main characters' best friends. Kind of starting at prior to book 1, and then you follow the timeline and it meets up in the first novella with the timeline of the first book, and then you kind of follow through almost the entire series up to the point where we're at, like through book 4. in the point of view of her best friends instead of hers. So you kind of fill in a lot of like time gaps when they were doing things that weren't necessarily with her. I thought it was good. I gave it a 4.25. I think it was a solid book. For novellas, it was really interesting. She did quite a bit with that one. Number 5 is called Vardasia. This one was great. It's the last technical book in the series. I thought things wrapped up well. You definitely spend a bit of time kind of separate at the beginning of this book. There's a whole trials thing that's going on. But once we brought everything back together, I feel like there was a mostly satisfying ending. I'm not 100% happy with where a few of the characters ended up. And then after that, there is book number 6 is called Caldorus. It is almost like a collection of novellas, and you follow several different characters and kind of where they ended up. We've jumped several years later. So it covers like, you're basically hitting, Caldorus is like their Christmas. And so you're hitting kind of like a Christmas special of several years after. So you just like hit 4 or 5 different Christmases after the events of the main series. And each one's kind of focusing on a different set of characters. It really wrapped up some of them super nicely. Some of them it set up for a whole spin-off, and I really, really, really need her to write that spin-off series. It would be so good. I'm so interested in the stuff she set up. In the author's note at the end of this book, she says that yes, she is aware that she set up a whole other storyline, and at some point she will write it when she feels ready, but she's not like in a rush to write it until she really feels like she knows what she wants to do with it, which like fair, but also like I really need that series to happen because I'm so curious. There's some stuff that she set up that I've been seeing for several books. I want to see. I feel like there's something more to a certain part of the story, a certain character. She totally set up that I was right, and there is something more to that, and I want to see that storyline so bad. So hopefully at some point she decides to write that spinoff series because I would be so excited for it. So those are the 2 series that I read, and really that did make up the bulk of my reading. So this wrap up is probably going to be a bit shorter, but the 2 books that I read that were not part of those series were actually both audiobooks, sort of. The first one is The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. I think that's how it said it. I started this one as an audiobook. I was struggling to get through it before my loan came up, and so I ended up getting the ebook out from Libby and finishing it that way, so I kind of did half and half. This is the most random book I think I've ever read. Not even just in like I don't know how I ended up picking it, but like what happens in the book is almost as if you'd let a 6-year-old tell you a story and then you like turn that into a full-on novel. It is just so crazy. There's so many random things, but basically the premise is you have this guy who's about to turn 100 years old, and he lives in a nursing home, and he decides on the day of his birthday party that he's kind of sick of being in the assisted living home, and so he climbs out the window and he just takes off, and he ends up at the bus station, and then he accidentally steals a suitcase from a mob member, and so then things just go crazy from there. He meets this whole eclectic group of characters, and you're following his whole adventures with them, and then you're also getting flashbacks of like different periods of his life, and you kind of get his whole life story as well. And it's almost like the author used this as a funny way to give like 100 years worth of world history in a book. This guy somehow manages to be involved in all sorts of world events in the 100 years that he lives, from like creating the nuclear bomb to being involved in like the Korean War, and like what else does he do? It's like seriously so many things. He gets involved with the Taliban at some point. Like he's just all over the place, and it's just wild. I feel like part of the point of the book was like, look at all of these crazy things that happen within a 100-year lifespan. Like there are people who lived through a lot of those things, but he just like somehow manages to find himself thoroughly involved, like active participant in many of these events. He meets almost every world leader throughout the time. It is wild. I gave it 3 stars. I feel like it was almost a little too out there to where things felt a little disjointed sometimes. And I struggled a little bit with the flashbacks versus following the like current timeline. I felt like I kept forgetting what was going on because things were so random that when we would jump back and forth, I was like, wait, what was happening again? Because I just couldn't remember because it was so out of left field every time. And there were times where it would like jump back to the current time and something would happen and it was just like introducing a new plot line, but it was so out of left field that it would throw me and I'd feel like I missed something. So not my favorite book, but it was interesting. I don't know if it sounds funny to you. It was like fine. I don't necessarily have any major gripes about it, but it's not, I don't know that I plan on reading the second book. I have no need to read that. I don't know why there's a second book, but that's the 100-year-old man who climbed out the window and disappeared. The audiobook narrator was good. If you want an audiobook, like I feel like this would be a good one. I just ran out of time on Libby. And then the last book, which actually truly is the final book that I finished in January, was another audiobook that I listened to through Libby. This is When Devils Sing by Zan Kaur. I think that's how you say it. I'm trying to remember from the audiobook. I give this one 3.5 stars. This one is like a horror thriller book about this small town in Georgia where there's just some weird stuff going on, as per usual in horror books. But they have these cicadas that come every 13 years that are like a totally different type of cicada than the normal ones. And when the cicadas come, people have a tendency to disappear. And so there's this one boy who goes disappearing, and there's these 4 other teenager, young adults, I guess they're all 18, that all have some kind of connection to him, and so they end up kind of all getting roped into trying to figure out what is happening and why people are disappearing, and it gets a little crazy. It took a very long time to build this book up, and then all of a sudden everything just happened really fast in the last like 2 hours of the audiobook, which isn't my favorite. It took a very long time, I felt like, for the different POVs to start merging and actually like be working together. So that was a little bit of a struggle for me. I don't love when we have separate POVs that just take so long to be interwoven. I like when they get together and start doing things a lot sooner in the book. The ending was fine. Again, I just felt like it was a little rushed and we just wrapped up a lot of things really quickly. The folklore was interesting to me. Like, I really liked the premise, and there were some interesting characters involved, but I don't know. I also felt like because the POVs were so separate, I was putting things together faster than the characters were. And so then there would be things that kind of felt like they were supposed to be the plot twist, but I'd already put it together because you had like different pieces of information in each of the POVs. And so as the reader, when you know all of it, you're able to put things together, but the characters aren't figuring it out until much later, because when they finally all get together and can share information. And so I don't know, it made it a little anticlimactic as a reader to be putting together things so much faster than the characters. So there weren't really a lot of reveals. And then all of a sudden there was stuff at the end that like you couldn't have foreseen was going to happen necessarily. And so I don't know, it was fine. Not my favorite horror thriller book. I also didn't really feel like it was freaky. Like, I'm pretty sure I found this in the horror section at Barnes & Noble, but I feel like it is more of a thriller than a horror book there, but there like is some magical stuff happening, so I guess maybe that's why it's classified as horror. I don't really know, but that was the last book that I read in January. It was a pretty good reading month. I feel like I read a lot. I found a lot of books that I really loved, mostly the Madoran Chronicles, and I didn't like hate any of the books that I read. But let's briefly talk about what I plan on reading in February. We already touched on it a little bit. I do plan on reading the rest of the Harry Potter series. I won't hold all of them up, but I've got book 5, 6, and 7 left. These will be in a reading vlog coming out sometime this month, so look forward to that. It'll be part 2. Again, all my thoughts, full spoilers. And then I have one book that I'm in the middle of right now. This is Grandma 19 and the Soviet Secret. I'm actually probably going to finish this today, so this will probably be my first book done in February. This is for a video, which you'll see coming out probably later this week. And then I'm also reading Co-Wives, Co-Widows for that one as well, so keep your eye out for those. They will be in a video coming to you hopefully very soon. And then I also have a couple series that I want to continue. There will be a video about this one as well. Most of my books, honestly, on my TBR are because of videos that I'm hoping to film. First one is Empire of Ivory by Naomi Novik. This is book 4 in the Temeraire series, which is a series about the Napoleonic Wars, but if there were dragons. And you're following, our main character is a dragon, Temeraire. I really enjoy this series. It's definitely one of the slower fantasy series. Like, it's not super fast-paced and just like sucks you in, but I have a really good time when I am reading it. Sometimes I feel like I just put it off continuing the series because I know it's kind of slow and it's not like got cliffhangers or anything, but I do really have a good time when I'm reading it. And then another series I want to continue is the Legendborn cycle. This one is book 2. This is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. I need to read this one and then at some point get my hands on the third one, which is the latest one that's out. I believe there's supposed to be 5 eventually, but I need the third book in paperback so it matches. So I don't know when that comes out in paperback or if it's already happened, but I'm going to go ahead and read Bloodmarked now and hope it comes out in paperback very soon. And then I think the last series that I'm gonna really try to continue is the Theodosia Throckmorton series. I'm on book 3. These are technically rereads for me. This is a middle grade series about a girl whose parents are the curators, maybe not the right word, but they like find artifacts for this Egyptian history museum in London, and she can see magic, and so she has to try and uncurse all of these objects that they're bringing into the museum before they can curse anybody. And then the last book that I'm going to read, we're going on a trip to New York this month, and I need a book that I can read that's nice and small and easy to take with me. And so I think I'm going to take Whose Body by Dorothy L. Sayers. This is like a golden era murder mystery type of a book. I feel like this will just be a fun, easy read on the airplane. This one is also one that I got for Christmas, so I want to make sure I'm reading my books that I got for Christmas this year, because I didn't do so great at that last year. So this will be my travel one. It's nice and small, so it'll be easy to fit in my bag on the plane. But that's everything that I'm hoping to read in February. I have so many books that I want to read, and I want to read so soon, so ideally I get through way more than that, and I'll probably listen to an audiobook at some point. I just don't know what yet. I have an audiobook on hold from Libby, but it's got like 10 weeks. So it could come through in February. I don't think it will, but it's called The Executioners 3 by Susan Dennard. The other book that could potentially come through this month, I don't think it's going to, is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This is the first book in the trilogy that comes before Dance of Thieves. I also have a couple books that are like, I've suspended my hold, like they came through and then I just suspended them. I have The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O, The Atlas 6 by Olive E. Blake, and We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer? Something like that. So any of those 3 I could unsuspend at any point during the month if I decided I wanted to read them. So that's the other thing I could technically do on our trip, is take the Kindle with me and read one of those books. So that's kind of what I have on my radar for the next month. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts are on them. If you have any recommendations like the Medoran Chronicles, please leave me your recommendations, and let me know what you plan on reading in February. But with that, I'm going to end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.